Hi, my name is Mike Schwarz and I'm the Managing Director of iTech Minerals. Today I'd like to run you through our 2023 AGM presentation. So this year we've focused on two projects within the portfolio at iTech. Our main focus has been on our graphite projects based on the Eyre Peninsula here in South Australia, and our secondary focus has been on our clay-hosted rare earth projects, which are also on the Eyre Peninsula in South Australia. Now, we have 100% interest in both projects, and what we've been looking to do is on our graphite projects is expand our graphite resources, and on the rare earth projects our focus has been on cracking the metallurgical code so that we know we can cost effectively extract those rare earths from the clay host material. So we've achieved quite a bit in the last 12 months. On our Campuna graphite project, we've completed over 1,840 metres of RC drilling at the Sugarloaf graphite project. Now, the main focus for that was to collect metallurgical samples for test work to see whether we can produce a high-grade con out of that material. What we did do in the process was we extended the known graphite mineralisation from the known 2 kilometres to over 4.3 kilometres in strike extent. So that's a significant extension. We also were very lucky and we were awarded a CRCP projects grant to the tune of $1 million. And that will help fund that metallurgical test work to produce a saleable battery anode material from the Sugarloaf ore. And we're doing that CRC project with our partners UniSA, the Future Industries Institute, and also Metz Engineering. Other than the Sugarloaf, we've also been looking to expand our graphite resources at the Lacroma graphite prospect. And we, having finished up the drilling at Sugarloaf, we then moved on to Lacroma, where we completed 6,500 metres of RC drilling with a view to explore the best location within that prospect to undertake a resource drill out. So there was a location within that probably 3.7 kilometres that we were able to focus on, and that was a zone of about 1.6 kilometres that we believe will be the best spot to initiate our graphite resource drill out. So to date, we've completed a further 8,000 metres of RC drilling within that resource area, and that drilling is currently ongoing and likely to continue into next year, after which we'll look to calculate an inferred resource on that prospect. But also importantly, very early on, we put some of those early drill samples in for metallurgical test work at Lacroma. Now, we know from historical test work that it does produce a nice high quality concentrate, but we want to do that ourselves and confirm that that is the case, and then upgrade that concentrate to purify and spheronize it into battery anode material. On the rare earths project, we've achieved a metallurgical breakthrough on being able to extract those rare earths from the clay, where we got extraction rates of 86% of the total rare earths and 87% of those more valuable magnet rare earths. Now, the process that we use to extract it, we're not 100% confident that is yet an economic process that can be undertaken. So we're working on lowering the costs of that extraction technique. So the two things we've achieved so far is that we've been able to beneficiate the material that we're leaching. We've been able to sieve it and get all the quartz grains out and leave the clay behind with the rare earths. And what that does is that leaves 75% of the rare earths in about half of the material. So we only have to process about half of the material we would normally. And the other thing is that we've been able to recover or recycle 95% of the acid that we're using to leach out those rare earths. So that will lead to a significant cost saving in the cost of acid. So quite a few achievements this year that we're very proud of. Our board, our chairman is Glenn Davis, who's a non-executive chairman, myself, Michael Schwarz, who's a managing director, a geologist, Gary Ferris, our other non-executive director, and then Yarrick Copius, who's our chief financial officer and company secretary. So we have a market cap at the moment of about $19 million, and that's at a share price of roughly 15 cents, with 122 million shares on issue. So why have we been focusing on graphite this year? So we see that there's a big future for graphite in lithium-ion batteries, and there's an ongoing trend of adoption into lithium-ion batteries, mainly from the electric vehicle market, but also things such as energy storage. So we see that market continuing to grow substantially in the coming decades. And graphite is a large part of those lithium ion batteries. It makes up to 30% by weight of that battery. So therefore, with the growth in the adoption of lithium-ion batteries in electric vehicles and energy storage, we see a significant increase in the requirements for graphite as part of that story. So every average electric vehicle, it takes about 90 kilos of graphite to manufacture that electric vehicle. So that gives you an idea of the volumes that we're talking about. I mentioned that electric vehicles and energy storage are the main growth areas that we see. So we see that battery electric vehicles will take up about 60%, 67% of the market, 5% for energy storage systems, and about 27% for consumer electronics. So the graphite that we are producing at Campuna in our test work fits nicely into the category that can be used in the battery electric vehicles and also energy storage. So we see that the graphite that we have, or battery anode material that we have the ability to produce, is going to fit into that highest growth sector. So a bit more about the Campuna Graphite project. It's a project that is 100% owned by iTech Minerals, and we see it really as a de-risked opportunity to supply purified spherical graphite into the battery markets. We already have a JORC compliant resource of 8.5 million tonnes at about 9% total graphitic carbon, and we're looking to grow that resource significantly in the coming months. We are very advanced as we already have a granted mining lease over that resource and 2 multi-purpose leases, which we already have issued for processing and water infrastructure. Now, we've already demonstrated from the resources that we have that we can produce a high quality concentrate of over 94% with greater than 80% recoveries. And then we can purify that material into 99.99% battery anode material. So we've already proven that we're able to do that with our resources. And now our next step is to expand on the resources to make sure that we have enough mine life to justify a mining operation. So we're looking to do that in 2 areas. We have an exploration target at our Sugarloaf prospect, graphite prospect, which has an exploration target of about 160 to 260 million tonnes at anywhere between 7 and 12% total graphitic carbon. So a really big exploration target there. And we're, as I mentioned before, we're already well into a graphite resource drilling program at our Lacroma Central graphite project. So we've been able to, from our Campuna ore body, we've been able to produce a high quality concentrate from that material of about 94% with recoveries above 80%. Now, what's important about that material is that it's generally a fine flat graphite. Now, that is the material that is most suited to be processed into battery anode materials for electric vehicles. So you don't need to grind it down. It's all relatively fine. There might be some minor processing, and then you can take that concentrate and you can purify it and spheronize it. So it's a prime candidate for turning into battery anode material for lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. So that's the first step, is producing that concentrate. The second step is then to spheronize it and purify it, and we've been able to show that we can achieve that with industry standard practices as well. Rather than using a hydrofluoric acid leach process like they do in China, which is very toxic, we've been able to use a caustic bake process, which is a lot more environmentally friendly, and you can recycle those reagents, leading to cost savings. So we were still able to achieve purities of 99.99% total graphitic carbon using that purification method. And then we were able to spheronize it, and we've been able to, with completely unoptimized, so sort of first pass spheronization techniques, we've been able to convert almost half of that material into spherical graphite. So we were, and that spherical graphite met all of the industry standard criteria to be put into lithium-ion batteries. So very little extra processing is going to be required. So we're very happy with the results of that test work. So we have at the moment about 8.5 million tonnes at 9%. Now, from our calculations, on a 50,000 tonne per annum operation of producing concentrate, that gives us about a 10-year mine life. Now, that's probably a little bit short for us to feel comfortable in going ahead and pushing the button on development. So our focus for most of this year has been expanding our graphite resources that we know we can process in the same way as we can at Campuna. So what's been our strategy for expanding our graphite resources that are metallurgically suitable for battery anode material? So it's really been a two-pronged approach. We started the year by drilling off at Sugarloaf, where we targeted that 4.3 kilometres of between 7 and 12% graphite mineralisation. And we're very pleased with our drilling program there, that we could acquire enough material that we could start off our CRCP metallurgical project with UniSA and Mets Engineering. Now, they have all that sample and they're well underway on that project of aiming to produce, firstly, a high quality concentrate of a grade exceeding 94% with 80% recoveries. And then the next stage of that, going into next year, will be to then to spheronize that material and then purify it into a saleable battery anode material. So that's their goal for the coming 12 months. So after we do that, then we're going to aim within that exploration target to try to get to somewhere around 60 million tonnes of resources at Sugarloaf. And once if we can achieve that, then we'll feed that back into our scoping studies. Now, Sugarloaf isn't really the main game. We're waiting for that metallurgical test work to be successful before we do any more drilling there. Really, the main game at the moment is at Lacroma Central. Now, the reason it's the main game is that we know we can already produce a high quality concentrate. So a large part of that metallurgical process has already been de-risked. So what we've gone ahead and done is done the exploration to find the best spot for a resource, and now we're drilling that out to the tune of 8,000 metres of RC drilling already, and probably about another 4,000 or 5,000 metres to go. So our aim in the longer term for Lacroma and the other prospects around it is to get somewhere in the order of 40 million tonnes of resources at about 7%. And when we can achieve that, then we'll feed that resource back into our scoping study to see how it extends the mine life and whether we're ready to progress and advance that to a high-level feasibility study after that. Okay, so I'll go into a bit more detail about the Lacroma Central Graphite project at the moment and that resource drilling that we're doing. So, as I mentioned, we've drilled about 8,000 metres within the resource area at the moment. And if we start at the northern part of that drilling area, you can see that we've hit that graphite horizon, although it's relatively thin compared to what we're seeing further to the south. So I'll do that. I'll step down to the south now. And as you can see, as we step, each section is 100 metres apart. As we step further to the south, by the time we get 300 metres south, that graphite horizon is really starting to thicken up. So we're getting intervals, in the order of 90 metres at above 6% total graphitic carbon in that third traverse to the south. And as we go even further south, it gets thicker and higher grade. So we go to the next two traverses. There's an infill traverse you can see there at the top. And we're getting, again, 93 metres at nearly 7% there. So it's getting quite a bit thicker and higher grade. And you go further to the south again, and you're getting, again, intervals of 90 metres at about 7%. So, it's really starting to bulk up and prove its potential as we head further to the south. So we have started drilling one traverse further to the south. And what I can say is that we are seeing it continue that improvement in the thickness of mineralisation as we head further to the south. So what we are hoping is that we still have another kilometre to drill before we get to the next traverse that we drilled. There's about a kilometre of open area that hasn't been drilled that we hope holds up with that nice thick high grade mineralisation. And if that does hold up, then we'll really be able to look at getting a significant resource there at Lacroma Central. Okay, so now I'll jump over to the Sugarloaf prospect, which we drilled earlier in the year before we went to Lacroma. So what we were faced with at Sugarloaf was we knew there was quite extensive graphite mineralisation over about 2 kilometres, but the company that had worked on it before, iTech Materials, hadn't been able to crack the metallurgical code to produce a high quality concentrate. So our aim was to collect another bunch of sample from there and then submit that to the CRCP project to have these really qualified people at UniSA and Mets Engineering work on that problem for us. So over a period of about a month, we've drilled about 17 holes in the southern half of that prospect, and I can present the results of that to you now. So we were able to increase the strike extent of that mineralisation from 2 kilometres by a further 2.3 kilometres. And we got some really nice graphite intersections at Sugarloaf in that southern 2.5 kilometres. Some of the really significant intersections we got were, and this is just in one hole, we had a top part was 48 metres at 7.2% from just 5 metres below surface, and then a lower horizon of 49 metres at 16.1% from 68 metres. And then there was a really high grade interval in hole number 17 where we got the top half was a bit lower grade, 27 metres at 7.7 from just 8 metres, so just below surface. But then a bit deeper, we had 13 metres at 26% total graphitic carbon from about 73 metres. So you can see there's significant graphite mineralisation over that whole 4.3 kilometres. So this is a target that is well worth chasing if we can crack that metallurgical code. So yeah, 160 to 260 million tonnes is our exploration target. We've got out $1.1 million to spend on cracking that metallurgical code. And we have these experts at Future Industries Institute at UniSA and Metz Engineering working on efficient recovery of that microcrystalline flake graphite from the ore and producing a high-grade con of above 94% total graphitic carbon. And the aim is to get recoveries of about 80%. And then the aim is to spheronize that, so turn it into these little balls that you can use in lithium-ion batteries, and then purify it to greater than 99.95% purity. And then once we've done that, it should meet all the relevant criteria for a battery anode material. So then I want to talk about where we're going to add additional resources after we've finished resource drilling at Lacroma Central. So our aim then is to move on after we finish that resource drilling and move on to nearby graphite anomalies and prospects where we believe we can continue to build that resource inventory to achieve that minimum 40 million tonne target that we're aiming to get in the next 12 months. So the first of those is going to be Lacroma North. We really like that. It's directly north from Lacroma Central. It appears to have exactly the same geology. There's outcropping graphite there. There's graphite in historic drill holes, and the anomaly, which is associated with the graphite mineralisation, very similar to Lacroma Central, but it's about twice the size or twice the distance. So, if we can get a decent resource at Lacroma, that would infer very well for the amount of potential resource there at Lacroma North. Now, in the longer term, once that's done, we're going to then head over to Ballambar, which is just out towards the and then in the longer term, we're going to head out towards Ballambar, which is over to the east by a few kilometres. And we're interested in that anomaly because there is also graphite, shallow graphite in drilling underneath that anomaly. But significantly, that anomaly is about 3 times the intensity of the Lacroma Central anomaly. Now, there may be some paleogenol sediments, thin paleogenol sediments over the top that have a bit of salt water in it, but generally the intensity of the anomaly relates to the grade of the graphite. So we would infer that the grade of the graphite should be higher at Ballambar. Now, if we take in those targets that we have to the north, including both Lacroma North and Ballambar North, that adds an extra 10 kilometres of prospective strike extent. So in our resource drilling, we initially targeted. So in our resource drilling at Lacroma, we initially targeted about 3.7 of strike, and we focused in at 1.6 that we can do our resource drilling on. So another 10 kilometres of prospective strike really gives us a good chance to achieve that overall resource target in the next 12 months. So we've been working slowly away on the Carroloo Bluff rare earth element and kaolin exploration project, really with a view to working out a cost-effective metallurgical technique to extract those rare earths from the kaolin clays and then also produce a saleable kaolin byproduct. We're working with a pretty big exploration target here. It's between 110 and 220 million tonnes at anywhere between 630 and 830 ppm total rare earths. And there's also 19 to 22% aluminium oxide, which is a representation of the kaolin content. So we know that the rare earths that are attached and hosted within those clays have quite an enrichment in the magnet rare earths. So they average about 25% of the rare earth composition in those clays. So it's well worth trying to crack that metallurgical code to get them out. So we have a very large area that we've identified these rare earth bearing kaolin clays over, and what we've done is restricted that exploration target to not where we've just got the rare earths, but where we have the rare earths and those white kaolin clays where they coincide. So that has really limited the size of the exploration target, because what we want to do is produce two products. We want to produce a rare earth element concentrate or mixed rare earth element carbonate, and also a saleable bright white kaolin product, because we believe that will give us the best economics for a project going forward. So our metallurgical test work has been going on probably for the past 12 months now. And like I mentioned before, we've had a number of breakthroughs. The first of those is that we've been able to achieve 86% recovery of the total rare earths and about 88% of the magnet rare earths, which are neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, and terbium. So really good recoveries. But using hydrochloric acid technique, using the hydrochloric acid technique that we've been using, it does dissolve a lot of the other impurities in that process. So we need to now work out how we're going to separate those impurities out. So that's our next challenge going forward. The other challenge is to bring our costs down. Using hydrochloric acid can be quite a costly process. So the way that we're addressing that is we've looked to beneficiate those clays, which is part of the normal kaolin beneficiation process. So when we separate out those kaolin clays, we get about 75% of the rare earths going with it, and it reduces the volume by a half. So rather than having to say, in the first instance, if you're processing 100 tons, we only have to treat 50 tons of that rare earth bearing clay, which cuts down the amount of material and therefore the costs that you have to process to get those rare earths off. So that's a major breakthrough in being able to only treat half the amount of material that has all of the large proportion of the valuable material in it. The second breakthrough we had was that we realized we could recycle about 95% of the hydrochloric acid that we were using to leach off those rare earths. So those are two techniques that we can use now to significantly bring down the costs of processing those rare earth bearing kaolin clays. The next step after this will be then to see if we can economically extract enough of those impurities to then be able to precipitate a good mixed rare earth element carbonate. So that's on the agenda for the coming months to see if we can do that. So this is a conceptual flow sheet to try to demonstrate what I've just been talking about. We would look at producing a shallow open cut mine. So this material is generally within meters of the surface. It's flat lying, and anywhere up to 15 to 30 meters thick. So a very cheap mining operation. We would, from that free dig mining operation, we would put it into a plunger with water and convert it into a slurry. We would then put that through a screening process, and that would remove all of the large particles and quartz grains. And that material then goes back into the pit that we've been digging to mine it from. And then the two valuable products, the kaolin and the upgraded rare earths, then go on into the leaching tanks, where at the moment we're proposing to do a hydrochloric acid leach and get 86 to 88% of those rare earths out of the clay hosted material. Once those rare earths have been leached off, the byproduct or the leftover material, which is the bright white kaolin, that goes into a filter press after being washed and cleaned, and that goes into a saleable kaolin product. Then we have that leached rare earth material in a liquid form. So that goes into an REE or rare earth element precipitation tank, where we start to remove the impurities from it. So once we've done that, we can then precipitate out those rare earths into a mixed rare earth element carbonate, and that will be a saleable product for us. So by the end of that process, we will have bright, high quality kaolin material to sell into the kaolin markets, and then a mixed rare earth element carbonate product to sell into the rare earth refining markets. So we believe that's the best process and the most likely economic flow sheet for the Carrollee Bluff project. Okay, so looking forward now, what do we hope to achieve next year? What are our project milestones? So at the Lacroma Central Graphite Project, we are hopefully going to get the results of our metallurgical test work for Lacroma back in the first part of next year. And also at the same time, related to that, our maiden resource for the resource drilling that we're doing at the moment. Once we've finished resource drilling, we'll then quickly go into diamond drilling, doing geotechnical drilling and infill drilling, and that will allow us to upgrade it from an inferred resource into a measured and indicated reserve category. So that will be our goal for the second half of next year. Because really it is your measured and indicated reserves that you can seriously do your advanced feasibility studies on. So looking to expand our resources beyond Lacroma, we're going to move up and start drilling at Lacroma North and our Balumbar graphite targets. So aiming to do that in the first half of next year, very soon after having finished the resource drilling at Lacroma Central. And then subsequent to being successful with drilling hopefully large amounts of graphite at those targets, we would then plan to continue our resource drilling at both Lacroma North and Balumbar if it supports it. The other thing that's going to be due early next year is our preliminary metallurgical test work results for Sugarloaf. So we're very excited to be able to produce a high quality concentrate from Sugarloaf, and hopefully we'll get the first indications of being able to do that in the new year, because that means that opens up that whole 4.3 kilometres of high grade graphite to be able to process and bring into our resource categories. And once we are able to produce that high quality con, we will work on being able to spheronize and purify that material and see if we can make a saleable battery anode material product from that at Sugarloaf. So that's all funded with that $1.1 million CRC projects grant that we have from the federal government. And then the other thing that's ongoing next year, hopefully we'll be able to show at Carroloo Bluff at our kaolin and rare earth element project that we can produce an economic flow sheet for extracting both the rare earth elements into a mixed rare earth element carbonate, but also produce a high quality kaolin byproduct. So if we can achieve that and convince ourselves that is achievable next year, then we will look at going back and doing a resource drill out on those projects at Carroloo Bluff. So the investment highlights for iTech Minerals. What's a good reason to invest in iTech going forward? Well, we have a lot of highly prospective geology and a significant land holding with a real focus on battery materials that are powering the transition to electrification of the economy, which here at iTech we believe is going to be an ever increasing change in the world's economy. We already have an existing JORC compliant graphite resource of 8.5 million tonnes at 9%, and we have a granted mining lease over that. And we're looking to build on those resources significantly, initially at Lacroma Central where we're drilling now, and then with hopefully breakthroughs at Sugarloaf with our metallurgy. Significant exploration targets, as I mentioned before, at Sugarloaf, 160 to 260 million tonnes there, between 7 and 12%. And then at Carroloo Bluff, with our rare earth and kaolin, we've got 110 to 220 million tonne exploration target at anywhere between 630 and 830 ppm total rare earths. And the important thing is that we're also looking to produce a saleable kaolin product, which we hope will really boost the economics of that project. So we have an 100% interest in all of these projects. We own them outright. So we're working in a very desirable jurisdiction here in South Australia. We're close to existing infrastructure. So any developments we make will be well supported by that infrastructure, such as there are ports at Whyalla and Lucky Bay to move our products overseas. We have skilled labour and mining support services at Whyalla, which is a sizable mining town. And also there's a new high voltage power line which transects our tenements, and that's capturing a significant amount of renewable energy that is being generated on the Eyre Peninsula. So any developments we make, we're looking at being able to use that renewable energy from solar farms and wind farms that is being generated locally to power any of our processing facilities that we look at putting in place on either the graphite or the rare earth and kaolin projects. So we believe that iTech is a real growth opportunity. We've got a tight capital structure, only 122 million shares on issue, and we have a low enterprise value, and we still have a significant amount of cash in the bank to drive forward our resource expansion and metallurgical programs. And we have a full set of those programs advancing quickly at the moment. There's the Lacroma resource drilling and metallurgical test work that we've just extended our drilling program to explore for more graphite at Lacroma North and Ballumbar. And then we have, hopefully coming up soon, the results from our Sugarloaf metallurgical test work, which will open up another 4.3 kilometres of graphite mineralisation. And then finally, if we can show that we can prove an economic if we show that we can produce an economic flow sheet at Carroloo Bluff, we'll be able to do our resource drill out on our rare earth and kaolin projects on the Eyre Peninsula there at Carroloo Bluff as well. So yeah, a very exciting time for iTech. We're well funded to undertake all these programs. So yeah, please stay tuned for more exploration updates as we release them to market. Thanks for listening.